All right. It's the back-to-back test of that Panjandrum. We're going to do things a little bit differently this time. I want to take a moment to get folks enthused about a couple things. I saw a meme the other day and it made me laugh. It said in March of 2020, and it had a picture of Kermit, like sipping the lemonade and the tea with all the memes out there. But it was skinny Kermit in 2020. But in 2021, it was fat Kermit. And they were both looking out the window. And it was like pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, or in the midst of pandemic. I want to highlight an important underlying factor that contributes to why this is such a humorous thing. I mean, first and foremost, obviously, there's a lot of stress associated with unexpected variables like what we've experienced during this pandemic. In addition to that stress, there is also comfort foods. There is also a change in rotation. And a lot of times when you get out of your rhythm, you are inclined to do one, be less active. So you're a little more stationary. And two, to eat more recklessly than maybe you would have when you were on the go and you were thinking about those always fun resolutions that folks tend to make at the beginning of the year. And in the midst of the pandemic, I mean, everyone's plan got blown up. There's an old adage that the military uses that your plan will never survive first contact with the enemy. That's where we have to think about the concepts of going for plan B through F, if not B through Z. The pandemic is the enemy at this moment, at least to a lot of folks' waistlines and their mental health. There is a direct connection to your mental and physical health. Why do I mention this? Because it's time for self-improvement. We are finally getting to a point in the midst of this pandemic that we may be able to escape the mundane, depressing state of wearing masks, stuck inside or on the curbside. So as we move into this new arena, we have places like Texas as a state, which has removed every form and facet of impediment that was administered upon the constituents based upon the pandemic. You have states like Florida, which, they're getting very liberal with their administration of pandemic-related restrictions. And we have vaccinations increasing exponentially nationwide and internationally. So, with that being the case, there's a high likelihood that, to a degree, things could resemble what we would call, the status quo day-to-day modus operandi. You can never go home again, so it'll never be exactly the same. But, this is a big but, like twerk it up. You have control over how you enter this new season. Winter, come spring, this spring should spring you into a summer of less COVID restriction. So how will you approach that? Will you approach that with power, humility, doggedness, with the willingness to do what it takes to push harder, push farther, push towards greatness, the spirit of a lion? Like you want to be the king of your environment, of your jungle, or the queen? Or will you limp into it, making excuses about that Rona weight or that mental health depression or that stimmy check that, that you spent and it didn't get you where you wanted to be or whatever? The choice is yours. You're either falling down or you're falling up. There's a lot of folks who made a mint in the midst of this pandemic. There's a lot of folks who've improved themselves in the midst of this pandemic. Tough times don't last. Tough ones do. pressure burst pipes. It also forges diamonds. I can hit you with idioms and one-liners and poster statements all day, but at the end of the day and the beginning, it comes down to if you are willing to do the work to get to a new level. There are folks out here who you can pay to help you accomplish your goals if you have enough humility to recognize the need. Food for thought.